Okay, so that's a good question. Thanks. I obviously didn't go into a lot of details. So our model now is that we have the for-profit trading arm, and they have a long-term agreement, for example, with the UN, with UNICEF, and their approved U.S. government suppliers. So they will market directly to large organizations that may want to integrate the products into their initiatives. And also, they're working with GSM provider, cellular providers in Africa, because the solar panel is both 12 volt for GSM phones and 5 volt for individuals. So we have some pilots going with that. And then the charity still pretty much operates on the same model where we work. A lot of what we do are called service contracts, so large content providers. So we're getting quite a large service contract coming up right now for English instruction, for example, across Africa, which is really quite an important thing for job creation and literacy and so forth. And so we'll work with their local offices, training, and then we want to load other content onto it as well. So we're trying to build a repository of content. So if you're taking something for English instruction, we can say, would you like early childhood development? Would you like some health care? Oh, how about some agriculture? You know, we've got something in Swahili. Would you like that as well? And then we can load that on. Thanks, Ronnie.
Stand up, speak up. Can you talk a little bit more about distribution?
Okay.
Sorry. Distribution and support, and what you have to do to get all these things into the field, and tips that you're ready to be working with that. How do you do that?
Okay, so let's deal with the breakages first. That's we give warranty units to cover breakages because the products have to be very robust, but you have to be practical about what you can fix in a rural area and what you can't. And the most important thing is to try to get the message out there that the threat to every piece of electronic equipment in Africa is the adolescent boy with the screwdriver. So you've really got to make sure that you don't, you can't open it up, it'll break, and it won't, but you want to, you got to keep them away from these kids who want to open everything up. So we reckon that if you can get 3-4 years out of something that is used day in and day out all day, that's pretty good and a very low environmental footprint. So distribution, we happen to be really good at logistics and supply chain and things like that, which if you'd told me that a few years ago when I was making dresses, that I would know anything about this, I would not have imagined it. But it is a capacity that you have to have if you're going to put things into places that don't have roads or but we always have to have a partner who has a bilateral agreement with the host nation, because otherwise you get involved in duty and VAT. So we thought we had our paperwork in order. We had 10,000 radios stuck in customs in Kenya for 30 months. So that was very difficult to get out. So you've got to, every country is different, and it's much easier to deal in large quantities than it is smaller ones, funnily enough. But then we would work with our distribution. So we have local partners. Everything we do is based on partnership. We leverage scale through partnership. So we'll work on training or distribution plans with our partner organizations and then work on a train-the-trainer methodology. It's not just training on the technology. It's also setting up of listening groups, how you want to manage your feedback loop as well, which is quite important. Yes? Oh.
For example, we've been raising money for someone in India doing some interesting wind stuff, and they're trying to raise 300,000, which is a huge amount for a developing country, which is too small to get impact investment for the kid. And those are kind of disconnects. I'm interested in what you see.
There's a lot of disconnect. I think it's getting more sophisticated, especially countries like South Africa, and in Kenya and in Nigeria to some extent, but pretty much else. I mean, social entrepreneurs typically are working at a smaller scale, and there's absolutely phenomenal ones. I think it depends on what they do. Al's example of, that was a South African he spoke about with the nutrient, I never heard of that. So organizations like Ashoka and Enablus and other ones are now coming into Africa and providing technical skills building and capacity building and so forth. So networks are growing. They tend to be a lot more men than women. And I think it's just completely impossible. I mean, I don't know. The people who have come from India, from other countries, my friend from South Africa, you know, what it's like when you come here for the first time. It must just, you know, blow you away. I don't know. It really is different. The jargon is different. You know, people used to talk about TiVo. I had no idea what they were talking about, you know. There's expressions are different.
I think this is live now. No, I thought this was live now. You're hearing? Good. Let me bring this to you.
Hi. All right. Yeah, I'm not supposed to make a speech. Thanks for your talk. I wanted to touch on something you said in the very beginning and the end about the personal relationship that you develop with people you work with, and also relate that to what we heard in the first panel about how the quip was that if you're not a client, you're actually part of my product. So I was wondering if you had any insights, experiences, or techniques to make sure the people you're working with really are creating shared value with you, and so they're not just a product on our PowerPoint slides.
Okay. They probably don't need to have a relationship with us. I just happen to have been in the field a lot and have personal relationships with people over many years. It's important that they have the relationship with the local partner. And so that's one of the things that you have to really get right, and to work with partners that, again, share your values and that understand the kinds of things that they need to deliver back to you in terms of feedback, in terms of you know, agreed distribution and so forth. And that's, we've made some excellent partnerships and had some pretty lousy ones as well. So you're never going to get all of that right. But, you know, for us to come in and say, to select 2 beneficiaries by me or listening groups, we don't do that. We have to rely really on people who work in those communities all the time and know them.
I noticed that you mentioned you're trying to reach some of the ultra poor who don't have necessarily any means at all to afford some of the equipment. I was wondering what you're doing to maybe co-brand or have sponsors, or kind of marketing messages, kind of like the lap desk, where they put sponsors messages so that you can essentially give these out, subsidize the costs, so you can get these out for cheap or free to people, to basically help increase how many people get your product.
Well, we started out almost exclusively with corporate sponsorship, and then it was a bit patchy. We think that's, with our MP3 player, is going to be a huge opportunity, because when you turn it on, you can see a logo, and on the screen it's digital, and also you can play a message. You can have a message come on that's the jingle, wash your hands before you eat, or whatever it might be that would be appropriate. We also allow branding on, like this partnership that we're working on right now. They're totally customizing the product to the way they want it, other than the color. They're putting their logo on it. They're redoing the box for them, the instruction manual, everything is going to have their logo on it. We're using this one as a pilot one. We wanted to do this for a project that was in Congo last year, but there weren't that many corporates other than mining houses that really wanted to do that, so that we skipped on that one. So that is, we see, and also for corporates to sponsor programming. And one of the areas where we think financial institutions could be very helpful is in financial literacy. It's all well and good to say M-Pesa and all these mobile banking systems, but I know from a lot of the women that I work with, they're intimidated by it. They don't really understand it. They may not be literate, and they're only using 1 or 2 functions on their very old cell phones that have fake batteries in them to begin with, if they walk very long distances to get charged. So, we think that we've just got to get it out there a little bit more so we can safely introduce it back into the corporate realm, and we think we've got some really good potential partnerships for that. Hope that answered your question.
We've got time just for one more question. I'll come to you.
This is actually a 2-part question. From your early years of business experience, what skill or skills did you find most valuable when you became a serial entrepreneur? You know, analytical skills or financial skills, etc. And then the second part is, once you became a serial entrepreneur, what skill do you wish you had developed or that you now found important to develop?
Okay. Well, the serial entrepreneur is actually my husband. But I think the skill from business that really helped me without question is that when I first started out as a consultant, my mentor drilled in to us, time is money. And valuing your time, because in nonprofits, it's not quite thought of the same way, and you're doing all these good things. That's one of the things that I've taken with me is time and money, and you have to get a result for somebody. And also, when you're so logistics oriented, you can't take, you can't have the shipping company say, well, no, I'm not going to deliver this when you've made promises. So just the real tough business skills I found, I'm constantly, my team are always having me come in when there's a problem to do that, because I don't. When it's something really tough, it always falls back onto me, and I think it's because that's what you develop when you're in business. And the skill that I wished I had developed a lot earlier on for myself was the skill of the cash flow.
Kristine, thank you very much. We unfortunately are at the end of our time, and so join me in thanking Kristine.
Thank you.